everyone, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Kurt on Cougs. This is the pre-game warm-up for the Cougars matchup tonight with Stanford. Very excited for this game. Should be a good one. The Cougs' first real test against a Power 4 opponent. Albeit it's Stanford, not exactly the most competitive team out of the ACC, but still you got to take everyone seriously, especially when you got a freshman quarterback. But first I'll look around the country, some things that have happened today. One exciting game was the Kansas-Missouri game. That was a game where back and forth the whole game. Ultimately, Missouri earns the win there. A little bit of a bummer for the Big 12, of course. Good news for the Big 12. And in upset fashion, in double overtime, Baylor beats SMU 48-45. Sorry, it took me a second to remember that score. A great win there for them. Definitely good, especially coming off of last week's tough loss to Auburn. And we've also seen some other pretty wild upsets, including USF, so South Florida, beating Florida 18-16. And I would say now they've put themselves on track to be the G5 contender in the playoffs this year. Now, of course, that's what we're saying right now after their wins over Boise State and Florida. But who knows what we'll be saying by the end of the season. But currently right now, if I had to make a pick, they're the ones I would pick there. So, and then some games going on right now that I'm liking are, for one thing, Oklahoma up 14-0 on Michigan. Could say a lot about both of these teams. These are both teams that I would say right now are kind of borderline playoff contenders. So excited to see what happens with both of them. And then a little bit of a shocker potentially brewing in Starkville, Mississippi, as the Mississippi State Bulldogs are up 17 points going into the half against Arizona State. Potential big upset there as well. And then kind of taking a look also as well around the rest of BYU sports. For one thing, yesterday, BYU men's and women's cross country kicked off the season. Both of them won their meets with, I believe, perfect scores of 15. That means you have the top 5 runners in each race. So, great job by them. They're looking to have a strong season. Both of them are defending national champions. So great way to start the season, and excited to see what they continue to do going forward. In the meantime, BYU women's soccer suffered their first loss of the season earlier this week to a ranked team in Arkansas. So not too bad of a loss. And tonight, though, they're looking pretty good as they try to bounce back. Currently up 2-0 early in the second half against Utah State, a team that's been a little bit pesky in the last few years. And then BYU women's volleyball, still undefeated on the season. Had a little bit of a scare earlier this week, winning 3-2 against Northern Colorado. Tonight they're looking to close out a sweep against Incarnate. We're currently up 2-0. Third set currently happening. So hopefully they can get a sweep there, continue on. Once again, like I've said before, this is a BYU women volleyball team that, in my opinion, has a lot of talent, a lot of potential. So it's really excited to see what they can do this year. All right, now diving into this matchup between BYU and Stanford. For one thing, what's on the line? Just a solid win. This would be BYU's best win of the season so far, and would also kind of give AP voters their first, maybe serious look at this team. I feel like a lot of voters don't take FCS games too seriously. I can somewhat see why that is. But a solid win here. Maybe you have a shot to make it in. I don't know. No one really in front of the Cougars has lost or looked too bad. I thought that Ole Miss might lose to Kentucky. Ultimately, Kentucky isn't able to pull off that upset. If Arizona State gets beat bad enough, maybe they fall out of the rankings. But at the same time, some of these teams like South Florida, Baylor, some of these teams pulling off upsets, maybe they jump the Cougs. So I don't know if the Cougars get ranked this week, but I feel like they should be ranked either in next week's poll or after the bye week, as long as they get a solid performance tonight against Stanford. So if they're going to do that, here are my 3 deciding factors for tonight's game. Deciding factors. So number 1, I'm going to say is just put Bear Bachmeier in a comfortable position. Now, of course, once again, I say what's really comfortable here. which is fair because this is a game where you have 200, 300-pound guys running, trying to take you to the ground. But I would say just set him up for success in this game. I feel like this is really important in this game as well as just for the rest of the season. I feel like BYU is not going to be able to run quite as much as they did in the opener. I still think they should be able to run on this Cardinal defense, but it's still going to be a lot harder than going against the Vikings. So I think setting up Bear Bachmeier to have a solid day will go a long ways. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to say force some turnovers. This is something BYU didn't do a whole bunch in the season opener, just getting one against the Vikings. Ultimately, that was enough. They won that game very solidly. But when you're taking on a Power 4 opponent, getting those big plays on defense, especially turnovers, giving extra opportunities to your offense can go a long ways. And then my last deciding factor for this game, kind of both sides of the ball, is win the running battle. At least from what I've seen, for Stanford, their best attack is running. They got a running back last name Ford, had a solid game against Hawaii, 113 yards and a touchdown. So you got to slow him down, and at the same time, it'll also be very important to get LJ Martin and Sione Moa going. And I feel like if the Cougars can do these three things, they should cruise to victory in this one. Yeah, so in the meantime, my bold prediction for tonight's game is I'm going to predict that, let's see. All right, we're going to see at least two Cougars that haven't scored yet in their BYU careers scored tonight. So, don't know who those two are. But I'm predicting we'll have two first-time scorers for the Cougs tonight. I know that was a big statistic last week. Something like 7 of the 8 players, or 8 of the 9 players that scored touchdowns, it was their first ever for the Cougs. So I think we're going to see 2 more of those this week. And then my final prediction for tonight's game. This game's at home for BYU. In my opinion, better offense, better defense. The Cougars should win this one. Stanford's still a dangerous opponent. They got great athletes. And they've had a bye week to prepare for this. But I still think the Cougars roll to victory with a score something around 38-10. So yeah, that's all for now. Be back afterwards for a post-game review. Let's go Cougs.